Life has a strange way of testing you. People will tell you, you can't, that's impossible, you'll never make it. But here's the thing, every great person who changed the world started with someone saying, if you say so. That simple phrase, when it comes from you, is the spark of possibility. It's your declaration that no matter what others say, your life will not be dictated by their limitations, but by your vision. Imagine if every time someone doubted you, you simply smiled and said, if you say so, what would you become? Today, we're going to unpack what happens when you take ownership of your life and refuse to be confined by opinions, doubts, or fear. Have you ever stopped to realize that the words you speak are shaping your reality even when you are not paying attention? Every conversation you have, every thought you voice, every statement you allow to escape your lips is a seed planted in the soil of your life. Words are not just letters strung together, they are the architects of your destiny. Think about the child who constantly hears, you are not smart enough, you can't do it, you'll never amount to anything. Those words do not just vanish into the air, they settle into the mind, creating a mental blueprint that becomes the limits of their existence. Now, imagine the opposite. Imagine a child who hears, you can do anything you set your mind to. You are capable. Your potential is limitless. That child grows up believing in possibility, believing that the world is a canvas ready for them to paint their masterpiece. Every word spoken in your life is either a brick building your prison or a foundation laying the path to freedom. I want you to think about your morning routine. When your alarm rings, do you say to yourself, I can't get out of bed, it's too early, I'm too tired? Or do you say, today is another opportunity, today I will make a difference, today I will move forward? Notice how the simple words you choose can either trap you in lethargy or propel you into action. A single phrase like, I will try, might sound harmless, but it carries hesitation and doubt, while I will do carries conviction and purpose. When you say, I will do, your brain aligns with action and your body begins to follow the command. It is fascinating how words are not just communication. They are commands to your own mind and body. Consider the example of someone who dreams of starting a business. If every time they think about their dream, they whisper, maybe I'm not ready. What if I fail? I don't have enough resources. They are speaking limitation into existence. Those words will shape the way they perceive opportunities, the way they interact with challenges, the way they respond to obstacles. But if instead they start each morning saying, I have what it takes, I am capable of learning, I will figure this out, suddenly the mind begins to notice solutions. The heart embraces courage, and the hands move to create possibilities. Words are the invisible engine of your life, quietly steering you toward either mediocrity or greatness. Look around you in everyday life. How often have you heard someone say, I'm just unlucky, or nothing ever works for me? Listen carefully, because that is a life being dictated by words. They are claiming their fate with every sentence, binding themselves with the invisible chains of negative language. Yet the person who says, I can find a way, will make this work. Today I choose to act, experiences life differently. The circumstances may be the same, the challenge is identical, but the outcome changes dramatically. Their words have altered their perception, and perception always precedes reality. I remember a story of a young woman who worked as a cashier in a small grocery store. Every day, customers treated her like she was invisible, like she was not capable of more. Most people would have accepted this as her reality. She could have said, this is my life, this is all I am good for. But she didn't. Instead, she started speaking to herself. I am destined for more, I will learn, I will grow, I will achieve. She began to read, to study, to practice skills after work. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, opportunities started appearing. Someone noticed her diligence. Someone offered guidance. Someone introduced her to possibilities. And all of this began with the words she chose to say to herself. Words that shaped her belief and fueled her action. Even in relationships, words have power. The phrases we speak to friends, family, and partners either build trust, intimacy, and growth, or create distance, doubt, and pain. Telling someone you are appreciated, I believe in you, I am proud of you, strengthens their confidence and deepens their bond. Conversely, words like, you never do anything right, I can't rely on you, you'll never change, weaken the spirit and create walls that are hard to tear down. What we speak becomes a mirror reflecting back to us what we allow ourselves to receive. And what about the words we say about our own past? How many people carry the weight of, I failed before, I will fail again, things never work out for me, I missed my chance. These words imprison us in a history that no longer exists and rob us of the present moment. But when you say, I have learned, I am wiser, I am ready for today, you release yourself from the chains of yesterday and invite the future to respond to your courage. Words can either be the lock or the key, the barrier or the bridge, the shadow or the light. Everyday examples show us that the words we speak, even the silent ones we whisper to ourselves, create reality. Words determine whether you remain stagnant or soar, whether you accept limitation or embrace potential, whether you allow fear to dominate or faith to guide. Every sentence you speak, every thought you utter, every declaration you make is a building block of your world. Imagine a life where every word you speak is intentional, deliberate, and designed to create greatness. Imagine speaking to yourself with encouragement, to others with empowerment, and to the world with vision. Your words define not only who you are today, but who you will become tomorrow. And the legacy you leave behind is first written in language, long before it is written in action. Have you ever noticed how most people spend their lives blaming everything and everyone for their circumstances? The traffic was bad, the boss was unfair, the economy is terrible, my family doesn't support me, I wasn't given the right opportunities. These words are not just complaints, they are chains. They are the very chains that keep people small, powerless and frustrated. True power is not given to those who blame. True power is claimed by those who accept responsibility. When you recognize that your life is yours to command, that every choice you make matters, that every action you take produces results, you step into a power that no one can take away from you. Responsibility is the key that unlocks your potential, the lever that moves mountains, the force that transforms dreams into reality. Think about someone working in a job they dislike. Many people will complain endlessly about their boss, the workload, the hours, the lack of recognition. But notice the few who stand out. They are the ones who say, I may not control everything, but I can control my response, my attitude, my effort, my learning. They take responsibility for their growth, their skills, their reputation, and their contribution. As a result, they are noticed, they are trusted, and opportunities begin to appear. Power does not come from circumstance, it comes from the willingness to act in spite of it. Take the example of a single parent raising children. The challenges are enormous. Some will allow the difficulty of their situation to dictate the future of their family. They will complain about the lack of time, resources, or support. Others, however, understand that their responsibility is their power. They recognize that the choices they make, the values they teach, the work ethic they model, the love they show, shape not only their lives, but the lives of their children. They take ownership of the moment, and in that ownership, they discover an inner strength and influence that is unmatched. Responsibility becomes a source of authority, not a burden, because it is the power to shape the future. Even in relationships, the principle is the same. Many people expect others to act, to change, to fix problems. They complain that their partner is not attentive, that their friends don't understand them, that their family doesn't respect them. The truth is that no one can change anyone else. The only power you have is over yourself. When you take responsibility for your emotions, your words, your actions, your reactions, you shift from being a victim to being a leader in your own life. Suddenly, you are no longer waiting for the world to act. You are acting, influencing, and shaping your environment through the choices you make. Consider the person who wants to be healthy. Some blame genetics, busy schedules, or lack of money for not eating well or exercising. Yet, those who understand responsibility as power recognize that their health is a result of their daily choices. They take responsibility for what they eat, how they move, and how they rest. They do not wait for perfect conditions. They create results by taking ownership of their habits. Power is found in that accountability. The knowledge that your life improves or declines according to your actions, not according to excuses. Look at students who succeed despite challenges. Many have difficult schools, limited resources, or personal hardships. Some use these circumstances as reasons to fail, while others take responsibility for their learning. They study harder, ask questions, seek mentors, and persist. Responsibility becomes their power because they are not victims of circumstance. They are architects of their future. The moment they accept that their results are a direct reflection of their efforts, a transformation occurs. they gain control over their destiny. Even in financial matters, the same principle applies. People often complain that they don't earn enough, that the economy is bad, that others have advantages they don't. The empowered person understands that wealth is not given, it is created. Taking responsibility for budgeting, saving, learning, investing, and seeking opportunities is taking power. No external factor can stop someone who refuses to be a victim of circumstance and chooses to act deliberately and consistently. Every decision, every step, every investment is an exercise in personal authority. In everyday life, the smallest acts of responsibility build power. Showing up on time, keeping promises, completing tasks, honoring commitments, taking care of your space, your health, your relationships. All of these create a sense of control, confidence, and influence. When you consistently take responsibility, people trust you, doors open for you, and influence naturally grows. Power is not about domination, it is about the capacity to impact, to produce results, to lead yourself and others effectively. I want you to picture a person standing at the edge of opportunity. Everyone else says they are not ready, the timing is wrong, the risk is too high. The person who understands responsibility as power does not wait for permission or perfect conditions. They say to themselves, "This is my life, these are my choices. I will act," and they step forward. Responsibility becomes the engine of courage. Responsibility becomes the source of momentum. Responsibility becomes the invisible force that propels them from ordinary to extraordinary. Have you ever noticed how doubt sneaks into our minds, whispering questions that make us hesitate, that make us feel small, that make us question our ability? It is not doubt itself that is dangerous. It is what we do with it that defines the course of our lives. Doubt is simply information, a signal that your mind is aware of risk, that your heart understands possibility, that your soul is pushing you toward growth. The real enemy is inaction, the refusal to move despite the questions, the uncertainty, and the fear. Inaction is what allows dreams to die quietly in the corners of your mind while the world continues without them. Think about the person who dreams of starting a business. They have an idea that excites them, that feels right, but doubt creeps in. They ask themselves, what if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if I lose everything? These questions are natural, they are part of being human. But if they stop there, if they let doubt freeze their hands, the dream dies before it ever had a chance. Those who succeed do not eliminate doubt. They act in spite of it. They acknowledge the fear. They respect the uncertainty. And they step forward anyway. Inaction is what kills vision, not hesitation or doubt. Consider students preparing for a major exam. Doubt enters their mind. I don't know if I can do this. What if I forget everything? What if I fail? But the student who takes action, studies, practices, asks questions, reviews, and seeks help. The doubt is still there, but it no longer controls them. The fear of failure has been transformed into a catalyst for preparation. Every action taken in the face of doubt is a victory over stagnation, a statement that your life will not be held hostage by questions, but will be driven by determination. Even in relationships, doubt often masquerades as hesitation. Someone may wonder, should I speak up? Should I take this step? Will they understand me? The danger is not in the doubt itself, but in the decision to do nothing. The heart that remains silent, the hands that do not reach out, the words that are never spoken. Those are the true losses. The courageous act is to move despite uncertainty, to communicate, to extend trust, to offer love, to act when fear and doubt are present. Inaction builds walls. Doubt merely reminds you that the wall exists. Look at the everyday example of a person wanting to improve their health. Doubt creeps in. Can I really change my habits? Will this routine work? Is it too late for me? The real harm comes not from questioning, but from sitting idle, doing nothing, and waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. Those who take action begin by small steps, a walk each morning, a healthier meal, a consistent schedule. Doubt still whispers, but the body moves, the mind grows stronger, and momentum begins. Action turns uncertainty into learning. Inaction keeps it as regret. Think about inventors, artists, and innovators. Many great ideas were doubted by the creators themselves. When doubt entered, it did not stop them. Inaction would have. Thomas Edison questioned whether he would ever perfect the light bulb JK. Rowling wondered if anyone would read her story. The Wright brothers faced countless skeptics. Doubt was present, fear was present, but action, experimentation, persistence, that was their weapon. Inaction would have left the world in darkness, literally and figuratively. Even in your career, doubt is a companion. You may wonder, Am I ready for promotion? Can I handle this responsibility? Will I succeed if I take this risk? Those thoughts are natural. They indicate awareness and insight. But if you allow them to stop you, if you wait for certainty that will never come, you become stuck. The person who grows and thrives takes deliberate steps, even with incomplete information, even with hesitation. They understand that action is the antidote to doubt, that momentum creates confidence, and that courage is measured by what you do in spite of the questions, not by the absence of the questions. Even in daily life, small acts of courage in the face of doubt create extraordinary results. Speaking up in a meeting, asking someone out on a date, starting a conversation with a stranger, submitting your work for review, trying a new hobby. All these moments are filled with doubt, and all these moments are opportunities. The ones who hesitate indefinitely are left with nothing but what-ifs. The ones who act despite fear and uncertainty gain experience, growth, and progress. Doubt is a signal, inaction is the thief of dreams, and every step taken in spite of fear is a declaration that your life will not be limited by hesitation. The truth is, doubt is inevitable. It is a sign that you are alive, that you care, that you are aware of the stakes. But the choice is yours, to let it paralyze you or to use it as a guide, to let it inform your decisions but not control them. Every great accomplishment, every breakthrough, every story of triumph in history is a story of doubt met with action, fear confronted with movement, hesitation replaced by decision. Inaction is the quiet killer of potential, the thief that steals what could have been, and the one thing you can always conquer if you simply move, if you simply try, if you refuse to let doubt dictate the terms of your life. Have you ever noticed that every achievement you see around you, every invention, every act of excellence, every story of success, all started as a thought? Greatness begins not in the body, not in the bank account, not in the title, but in the mind. It starts as a vision, a conviction, a seed planted in imagination long before it appears in reality. Consider the person who dreams of starting a business. Before they draft a plan, before they find an office, before they hire anyone, the entire journey begins with a thought. What if I could create something that changes lives? That thought is the spark, the invisible blueprint, the map for every action that follows. Without that initial mental image, nothing else would exist. Think about athletes, the runner who wins a gold medal, the basketball player who hits the game, winning shot, the swimmer who breaks a record. Every one of them first imagined themselves crossing that finish line, sinking that basket, touching the wall first. Their mind rehearses the success long before their body executes it. Every training session, every sacrifice, every early morning, every moment of pain is powered by a vision that began in thought. Greatness is always conceived in the mind. The body is merely the instrument to bring it to life. Even in daily life, this principle is evident. The student who wants to excel begins by imagining themselves understanding the material, passing the exam, receiving recognition. The parent who dreams of creating a nurturing home imagines the atmosphere, the routines, the love they want to cultivate. The artist, the writer, the musician, all start with a vision that only exists in the mind. It is the mind that charts the path, that tests the possibilities, that sees what others cannot see. The difference between those who achieve and those who do not is often the clarity and power of their mental vision. Have you ever had a thought that seemed impossible? Maybe you dreamed of starting a business, moving to a new city, learning a skill, writing a book. At first, it may have felt too big, too risky, or too far-fetched. That is where most people stop. They allow doubt to cloud the mind and shrink the vision. But those who understand that greatness begins in the mind recorded, that the mind is where courage is born, where strategies are formed, where potential is imagined. They feed their thoughts with belief, with determination, with possibility, and gradually, what was once a vision becomes a plan. What was once a dream becomes a reality. Consider the story of someone who wants to change their career. They may be working a stable job, but their heart longs for something more. They begin by imagining themselves in a new role, seeing themselves skilled, confident, respected. They visualize the daily activities, the interactions, the satisfaction of meaningful work. Each thought strengthens the mental image, and the mind begins to align actions with that image. They take courses, network, practice, apply, and step by step, the vision moves from the mind into the world. Without that mental foundation, no action could be directed, no progress could occur. Even in relationships, greatness begins in the mind. The person who wants to cultivate a stronger connection imagines the conversations, the understanding, the empathy, the joy they want to create. They rehearse patience, kindness, and listening long before the words leave their mouth. The mind sets the tone for reality because every action originates in thought. A life of excellence, a home of harmony, a community of influence. All these begin as ideas, as beliefs, as choices in the mind. Think about problem solving. When faced with a challenge, the first step is not physical action, it is mental. The mind surveys possibilities, anticipates outcomes, evaluates options. The greatest inventions, the most effective solutions, the most creative breakthroughs, all start with a thought. What if? A vision that expands beyond current limitations. The mind imagines success first, and then the body, resources, and circumstances align to bring it into existence. Everyday examples show us this principle in action. The young person dreaming of becoming a teacher imagines their classroom, their students, the lessons they will share. The person who wants to be fit imagines themselves moving, stretching, feeling strong, making consistent choices. The person who wants to build a business imagines the logo, the product, the customers, the impact. All of these begin in thought. The mind is the laboratory of possibility, the training ground for achievement, the engine of transformation. Greatness begins in the mind because the mind is where vision, belief, and courage are born. It is where impossible things are first imagined and tested. It is where ordinary people begin the journey to extraordinary results. What you think about, what you focus on, what you feed your mind daily determines the trajectory of your life. Your actions, your habits, your choices, your resilience. All of these are extensions of the mental pictures you hold. The mind is the birthplace of everything that you will ever become, the unseen force that precedes every visible success, the silent architect of your destiny. Have you ever watched someone who is naturally talented but never seems to reach their potential? They are gifted, they have the ability, they have the resources, but somehow they never achieve what they are capable of. And then you see someone else, perhaps less talented, less gifted, who refuses to quit, who keeps moving forward, who continues to try even after failure, and they surpass the naturally talented person. That is the power of persistence. It is the force that outlasts natural ability, the habit that turns effort into results, the discipline that converts small steps into extraordinary achievements. Consider a young student who struggles to grasp mathematics. At first, they feel defeated because they compare themselves to the classmates who seem to understand everything effortlessly. They might think, I'm not smart enough, I'll never get this. But then there is another student who may not have the same natural gift, yet they spend extra hours studying, practicing, asking questions, and seeking help. Each day they try, each mistake they correct, each lesson they repeat builds momentum. Over time, their persistence outweighs initial talent, and they find themselves excelling where natural talent alone faltered. Look at athletes. Some are born with incredible physical abilities, with strength, speed, and coordination. But the athlete who trains consistently, who pushes through fatigue, who practices long after others have stopped, often surpasses the naturally gifted ones who rely on talent alone. Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, was cut from his high school team. He was not the most talented player at the moment, but his persistence, his dedication to practice, his refusal to give up turned him into a legend. Talent without persistence is wasted potential. Persistence without talent builds results. Even in business, persistence is the difference between success and failure. A person may have a brilliant idea, an innovative product, or a groundbreaking concept, but if they give up at the first obstacle, their talent does not matter. The entrepreneur who faces rejection, financial setbacks, criticism, and still keeps moving forward is the one who ultimately succeeds. Persistence turns failure into feedback, obstacles into opportunities, and challenges into stepping stones. The world rewards those who refuse to quit more than those who have talent, but surrender at the first sign of difficulty. Consider writers and artists. Some are naturally gifted with words or creative ability, yet they never finish a manuscript or never complete a painting. Then there are those who may struggle to write eloquently at first, who make countless mistakes, who face rejection after rejection, but they keep submitting, revising, learning, and creating. Persistence transforms learning into mastery. Every rejection, every failed attempt, every criticism becomes a lesson, a brick in the foundation of eventual success. Talent is helpful, but it is persistence that carries you across the finish line. Even in everyday life, persistence plays a monumental role. Think of someone learning a new skill like cooking, coding, or playing an instrument. At first, mistakes are frequent, frustration rises, and doubts appear. The naturally talented may give up because it feels too slow or too hard. The persistent person, however, practices every day, studies, asks questions, and refuses to be discouraged. Eventually, they achieve proficiency, even excellence, and their results often surpass those who had an easier start. Persistence is the quiet, consistent force that transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary accomplishment. Consider relationships as well. Maintaining meaningful connections, building trust, repairing misunderstandings, and nurturing love require persistence. A person may have charisma or charm, but without the effort to invest in communication, understanding, and consistency, the relationship will falter. Those who persist in showing care, patience, and commitment often build stronger, deeper, and more lasting connections. Talent alone in social interaction is fleeting. Persistence strengthens bonds and creates enduring impact. In careers, persistence is what elevates ordinary employees into leaders. A person may have natural intelligence, technical skills, or charm, but without consistent effort, reliability, and commitment to improvement, they plateau. The person who shows up early, who works diligently, who seeks feedback, and who continues to learn grows steadily and often surpasses those with greater initial talent. Persistence turns incremental improvements into mastery, small actions into exponential results, and ordinary effort into legacy. Everyday life shows us countless examples of persistence triumphing over talent. The neighbor who wakes up every day to run, the parent who tirelessly teaches their child, the friend who consistently supports, the colleague who keeps improving despite mistakes. These are the quiet heroes whose persistence changes outcomes. Talent is a gift, but persistence is a choice. And it is the choice that makes the difference between potential that fades and achievement that lasts. Have you ever noticed how many people desire to lead, to influence, to inspire, yet struggle to gain respect or make an impact? The truth is that leadership is not about a title, a position, or the number of people under you. Leadership begins with mastery over yourself. Before you can guide others, you must first understand and control your thoughts, your emotions, your decisions, and your actions. Self-mastery is the foundation of authentic leadership, the engine that drives influence, the compass that guides every step in the life of someone who aspires to lead. Without it, leadership is nothing more than a claim, an illusion, a temporary role that lacks substance. Consider the person in the workplace who wants to be a manager. They may have the technical skills, the knowledge, and even the personality that draws people to them. Yet if they cannot manage their own time, their own stress, their own anger, or their own priorities, they will fail to lead effectively. Employees sense when someone lacks control over themselves. When a leader loses patience, reacts impulsively, or allows personal issues to dictate decisions, trust erodes, influence diminishes, and respect disappears. The first step in becoming a leader is to become the master of your own life, the governor of your own actions, the architect of your own responses. Look at athletes and performers. The most successful are not always the ones with the greatest natural talent, but those who have mastered discipline, focus, and consistency. They control their habits, their routines, their thoughts, and even their emotions under pressure. A football quarterback must remain calm under the roar of the crowd, focused amidst chaos, and decisive even when seconds matter. A musician performing on stage must manage anxiety, breathe through stress, and remain in harmony with themselves before they can create harmony with others. Leadership works the same way. Mastery of self allows mastery of circumstances. Even in family life, leadership starts with self-mastery. Parents who can regulate their emotions, think before they react, and demonstrate patience and wisdom naturally guide their children. Children may not listen to words alone, but they respond to the example set by actions. A parent who reacts impulsively, who loses temper at the slightest provocation, cannot inspire respect or trust. But a parent who models self-control, integrity, and consistency teaches lessons far more powerful than any lecture. Leadership in the home begins with understanding oneself, acknowledging weaknesses, and developing habits that exemplify the behavior you wish to see. Consider entrepreneurs who lead teams and build companies. They must make critical decisions under uncertainty, handle setbacks without panic, and inspire confidence even when facing failure. Those who have not mastered themselves allow fear, frustration, or pride to dictate decisions, which often results in chaos or collapse. The successful entrepreneur, however, has developed patience, resilience, focus, and emotional intelligence. They understand that their ability to influence others begins with their ability to influence themselves. Self-mastery transforms challenges into opportunities and builds credibility that attracts support, loyalty, and cooperation. Even in friendships and social interactions, leadership begins internally. A person who can manage their own emotions, who can communicate clearly, who can forgive and move forward, naturally inspires trust and respect. People follow those who demonstrate strength under pressure, calmness in crisis, and wisdom in decision-making. A person who cannot control themselves cannot control influence. Leadership is not about control over others. It is about control over self that allows others to willingly follow. Look at historical examples in everyday life. Someone managing a community project, a coach training a team, a teacher guiding students, or even a volunteer leading a small initiative. In every case, the person who can regulate their mindset, their patience, their discipline, and their behavior becomes the leader others trust. They set the tone, they establish the culture, they influence the energy, and their self-mastery determines the success or failure of the entire endeavor. Authority is always amplified by inner control and diminished by internal chaos. Even personal habits reflect leadership. The ability to wake up early, prioritize goals, complete tasks without procrastination, resist distractions, and maintain focus demonstrates mastery of self. These are the invisible qualities that differentiate those who lead effectively from those who merely aspire to lead. People notice consistency, reliability, and integrity even before they notice titles or accolades. Your influence is rooted in your capacity to lead yourself before attempting to lead anyone else. Consider the example of someone navigating a crisis. When everything seems to be falling apart, deadlines are missed, relationships are strained, resources are limited, the person who has mastered their own mind and emotions remains steady. They make decisions with clarity, inspire calmness, and take actions that move the situation forward. The person who lacks self-mastery reacts impulsively, loses composure, and amplifies chaos. Leadership always begins internally. The outer world cannot be managed effectively until the inner world is disciplined and aligned. Have you ever realized that the life you are living right now is speaking, whether you intend it or not? Every action, every choice, every habit, every word you speak is part of a testimony that others read, observe, and interpret. Your life is not just a series of random events. It is a statement to the world about who you are, what you value, and what you stand for. Some people think that testimonies are built only through speeches, awards, or grand gestures. But the truth is that every ordinary day is an opportunity to write a powerful story with your life. The way you respond to challenges, how you treat others, the integrity you maintain when no one is watching, all of this becomes a narrative that communicates far more than words ever could. Think about a teacher who shows up early every morning, prepared, patient, and committed to each student's learning. The students may not understand the lessons fully, but they notice the dedication, the consistency, the example being set. That teacher's life is a testimony of discipline, commitment, and passion. Years later, former students may recount how the example of that teacher shaped their own work ethic or inspired their dreams. You see, a testimony is not just about accomplishments. It is about consistent demonstration of values that others can see, experience, and follow. Consider the working parent who balances a demanding job while nurturing their children. Some may complain about the lack of support or the exhaustion, but the parent who remains consistent, who models patience, responsibility, and perseverance creates a living testimony. The children grow up seeing that dedication, understanding that hard work, sacrifice, and integrity are not just words but actions lived daily. Every choice, from how bills are paid to how family conflicts are handled, contributes to the story being told about who this person is and what life stands for. Even in the workplace, your life is your testimony. The colleague who consistently delivers quality work, treats others with respect, and demonstrates integrity without being asked is sending a message far louder than any official report or presentation. People notice reliability, honesty, and consistency. Over time, your character becomes your reputation, and your reputation becomes your testimony. It is what people remember long after the work is done, long after the project is completed, long after the immediate recognition fades. The life you live daily speaks louder than any title, paycheck, or credential. Look at individuals who face adversity. Some are confronted with challenges so overwhelming that they could give up, complain, or surrender to despair. Yet, some choose to rise, to act with courage, to respond with dignity, to maintain hope. Their life becomes a testimony not of the problems they faced, but of the strength, resilience, and perseverance that define their response. People observing them see that success is not just measured by outcomes, but by character demonstrated in moments of trial. Your life, in essence, becomes a living sermon, teaching lessons of courage, faith, and endurance without a single word spoken. Consider friendships and relationships. Your actions, how you honor commitments, how you maintain honesty, how you show empathy, these create a testimony. A friend who consistently supports, listens, and encourages, who responds with patience instead of judgment, communicates who they are and what they value more than any declaration of friendship ever could. People learn from observation. Your life teaches more than your speeches, your posts, or your promises. The integrity you live, the care you show, the humility you practice, all become evidence of the principles you hold dear. Even in moments of temptation or moral challenge, your life is your testimony. The decisions you make when no one is watching define your story. When you resist shortcuts, maintain honesty, act with fairness, and uphold principles despite pressure or personal cost, you are writing a testimony of character and integrity that resonates far beyond the immediate moment. People remember not just what you accomplish, but how you accomplish it, the ethical choices you make, and the principles that guide your life. Everyday examples show that your testimony is built in the small, consistent actions, the way you respond to traffic, the patience you show to a cashier, the kindness you offer to someone struggling, the effort you put into completing tasks, even when no one notices, the words of encouragement you share with those around you. Each act contributes to a story about who you are, and over time, the story becomes undeniable. Your life in its consistency, its honesty, and its commitment to purpose speaks for you in ways words cannot. Consider someone who turns a personal failure into a lesson for others. They could hide, complain, or blame circumstances, but they choose to share their experience, to demonstrate resilience, and to inspire others. Their testimony is not just their success, but the journey, the struggle, the perseverance, and the courage displayed along the way. People are drawn to authenticity, and when your life is authentic, it becomes a beacon of hope, guidance, and inspiration for everyone who observes it. Your life is your testimony because it is the clearest representation of what you believe, what you value, and who you are becoming. It is the narrative that is constantly unfolding, the story written in action, thought, and influence. Every choice, every habit, every interaction contributes to that story. The world may not notice each day, but the cumulative effect is profound. People will judge your character by what they see lived consistently, not by what they hear in speeches or read in social media posts. What you do, how you live, and the integrity you maintain becomes a legacy. A living testimony that speaks long after words have been forgotten. So I challenge you today, when someone tells you, you can't, you shouldn't, or that's impossible, respond silently in your heart. If you say so, let that phrase remind you that your life is not a debate for approval. It is a mission for impact. Your dreams, your potential, your purpose are too valuable to be limited by anyone's imagination but your own. Remember, history is made not by those who follow the crowd, but by those who say, if you say so, and move forward anyway. Step into your power, embrace your vision, take ownership of your destiny, and live a life that proves to the world that nothing can stop what you are truly called to achieve. If you say so, today is tomorrow's legacy.